But I think so. Going back at that, like that's one thing I could like about Doctor Stone is they're not focusing. They're taking away from like each anime that they always focus on the tough guy, on the big brute who's always the badass. They're taking away from that because they're always focusing on the smaller guys being the head of the game, the strong one, the muscle in a sense. But it's not muscle. It's more science in this situation. So like you see, you're looking at Senku, you look at Taiju, you look at Chrome, you look at Kinro, Ginro. They're not big and broody like Magma or even the main the villain. How do you say his name again? Uh, I can't say his name.
Oh, the Tsukasa.
Sukasa, yeah, that's a cool name. He's badass, but we could talk about him. You look at Sukasa or Magma, you think, oh yeah, they're the tough guys. They're gonna be the ones that are gonna like be the big cool guys who are gonna save the day. No, they're focusing on like later on down the season, they're focusing on Senku and Chrome, those two, and Ginro, and I mean the whole group. Even the little girl who's blind with the watermelon helmet is doing her fair share of work, and then even how can I forget the main guy, the main like how much emotion I have towards this old man, Keisuke, the old man crafter. I love him.
Yeah.
But like all these little guys, you would never think that they would carry anybody like in a video game, like they will carry the team. You look at all these little guys, even Kinro, who's supposed to be the toughest one at taking away Magma. Looking at Kinro, who's supposed to be the toughest one there, he's not like looks wise, he's not even anywhere near being as tough as the main villain or even his right hand man. It's like it's funny because they're doing it so right to like all these in a sense. If you put these guys in any main character, any main other main anime, they're gonna be side characters. But these side characters are the main characters, and they're the ones carrying everything. It's amazing. They're like, man, let me look at this. Let me look at every typical anime. Okay, Naruto, it's all the guys with the ninjutsu and the demons and everything. You don't need a big brute to look cool, but it's everyone who knows how to do all the ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu. Okay, so they're the cool guys. Okay, let's look at JoJo's. Everybody that's buff and cool and who has like a cool stand, they're the big buff guys who's carrying everything. Um, One Piece, like every rugged character and huge character are like the one carrying everyone. But then if you put these guys in One Piece, they're the side characters. So they're like, man, okay, what about all those cool side characters in One Piece? How do we bring those characters to like being main characters? They grabbed side characters from. I'm not saying exactly they're grabbing side characters from One Piece. I'm saying they looked at some cool side characters from One Piece and then said, let's bring it to life and let's put it in Doctor Stone and let's make them the main character. That's what I took out of it. And I'm like, that's fantastic because it's so fun. It's like typically the people, if I'm looking at the main group, I'm never gonna think these guys are main characters. These guys, there would be side characters in any typical anime, and they made them main characters in Doctor Stone, and I think that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, because like at the same time, he's like, as much as Senku is the main character, he's literally tells everybody how weak he is. He goes, "I'm all brains. I'm not very strong. I can't do any lifting. I can't do anything adventurous." Every time they go out on an
Yes.
expedition, he's the one dying in the background. Like, I
I
can't
wanted to
go
mention
on.
that too. That is so funny. I love that they did that. I love that they did that.
Because it makes all these side characters have a purpose. Like,
Yes.
everybody has a purpose. Even like with Jinro, he's like, "Oh, all I want's a silver tip spear. All I want's the silver tip spear again,"
Yeah.
because it keeps getting destroyed with all the experiments. And they make him be literally the badass weakling because he has to figure out, where is the death point. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as the spear turns black, he knows that, okay, this is bad and we need to go to another direction, or so on and so forth. Like, this is where we need to put our masks. And then he ends up saving Senku from falling into the pit of water of the acid because, like, he was scared, even though his tank was also bursting as well at the same time. So it's like all these side characters are all the minor, or all the stuff that Senku is weak at.
Yeah.
And like, as much as like I don't know if they're going to be adding more characters. I don't read the manga, so I'm pretty sure there's going to be like tons of new characters added.
Right.
But it's like we already have such a nice handful of characters that all
Mm-hmm.
have their important roles, and it's like, you know, you can just look at them and be like, oh, I know what that one does. I know what that one does. Each has their roles, and not a lot
Yeah.
of animes you can really tell who has their roles because there's so much of just, you know, either some like an emotional support character or they're more of just the love interest character.
Or 5 copies of the main character.
Exactly. So like in like all the big tier shows, like yeah, like in One Piece, like you said, like those core people, it's like, okay, yeah, you know all their backgrounds because you had the hundreds of episodes to be able to do the backgrounds. What Dr. Stone did was like you have 24 episodes, but you know what all their backgrounds are and you know how important each one of these characters are. Even like Chrome sees himself as a weakling too, but he knows where all the materials are.
Yeah.
So like there's still something important for Chrome, even though he lacks all these other things, he just knows where all these materials are.
Right.
It's hard for him to get it, but you know, that's why you have the rest of the team there to back him up. It's all
Yeah.
about teamwork.
Yes, and that's what's cool about this anime, because like it started from, you know, the Stone Age, from nothing, and it took this one smart guy to like help everyone out, and he had to, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, you're smart, take over the town. No, he had to prove himself. Once he proved himself, he started recruiting people, and they had their own abilities to help him, you know, anywhere from the strength to the grunt work. And positive note to that grunt work, they took a nice, there was a scene they were talking about, like, yeah, you know, one guy might not be smart about like just moving a large thing from A to B, but he's a professional at that, and that is what helps us smart guys be something. So maybe he's not as smart as me, but him doing that physical work I can't do helps me so much that he's a part of my smarts. I was like, oh my god, they're so comparing it to like real life, and like telling the people who are like in a sense who are like construction workers or
It's like
garbage men.
laborers in general.
Yeah, just because you do physical labor, it doesn't mean you're wasting your life. You're still putting something towards everyone's something towards masterpiece. And it's not just the smarts, because like you could think of one thing, but you can't do every little thing. It doesn't take, if I mean, there's people who can, and there's very little people who can. Good on them, they're smart, but it takes a whole team to do things, and they really, really, really focused on that. And I thought that was so cool to compare it to life. I guess out of the anime style of Dr. Stone, they made it very comparable to life, because it was everyday students who just went to having all the technology and the scientist programs and experiments to like having nothing, and they're learning off this
Exactly.
one guy.
And like I like how it's very inspirational in a way because
Oh my god,
even though
yes it
Senku
is.
is like the most smartest one in the group, he knows that just as much as everybody else. Well, I mean, they don't know it, but he knows that the human mind is always going to be thinking and is always going to be creative, and that we're going to have people in every era that are just good. Like, especially with the old man, he's like every generation has somebody who's good with their hands. They don't need to know or they don't need instructions on how to do things because it's in their blood that they know how to craft.
Yep.
Like, I mean, like, yeah, you know, he did the glass blowing thing all in one shot, but it's like how visual learners are. Like, you show somebody something and they can even excel at it better than you because that's just their, you know, hidden trait
Yeah.
that they have.
Exactly.
And like, and how with Chrome, how he's like, oh, constantly moving, something constantly moving instead of having the manpower. Him and the old man, they make the water generator.
Yeah,
And,
they made that
like,
up without Cinco's help. Like,
yeah, yeah, they don't have to ask Senku or get his permission. That was literally something that he thought he invented, but he didn't know was already invented. But you know, Senku's thinking a mile a minute while other people are just trying to think of like easier, simple things. And then he goes and he makes the water generator, even though it was still a little primitive. Senku went in there and he fixed just a few minor things, and he made it the energy or the generator basically for electricity.
I remember yelling. I'm like, "Holy shit! They just made a generator!" I yelled. I'm like, "Oh, whoa! Good for them!" That was such a surprise
I was super
too.
happy.
Yeah, and then because it took away from the focus and just Senko being the smart guy. It took away all that because they learned everything they learned from Senko. They put it to their use and thought outside of the box and created his own thing. That was such a fantastic thing. That's very comparable to humanity, us thinking outside the box and making our own things. They're doing this show fantastically.
Yeah, like every little invention that they do, it's like, yes, he's on the process to making the medicine that cures all illness, but at the same time, other people are getting sparks of ideas for more inventions, and he's just like in awe through it all because he's like, wow, like, you know, like I still can, like, you know, rely on humanity to always have people wanting to do inventions.
Yeah.
Like, so he's just like, you know, awestruck, and then it's sparking more ideas in his head, like, you know, finding the recording inside the stone grave for his father and stuff like that. It's all these things that these people, they don't realize, but he has to put the pieces together and figure out all these puzzles and stuff.
Right.
And these other people, they don't know what they're doing because that's the way they've done things for their thousands of years that they've been alive inside the Stone Age.
Exactly. Right.
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's just like nowadays, you know, even though we're in a modern society, there's tons of people out there being, you know, inventors. It's like, why do you have to invent another way to make a light bulb? Like Thomas Edison or whatever, he made like billions of different light bulbs that all failed. But like there are still other people that are trying to recreate something
exactly
just to have their new spin on it, which I think is like fantastic.
Right, because